All righty, welcome to Real Talk AI and Cyber. Right now, I'm your host Ron Hicks, and with me is my co-host Joel Hawbaker, and we got a special guest today, Mr. Brandon Bowman, our own security potentate right here, security specialist. What's going on, Brandon?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
I'm good, man.
Thank
I'm
you for
good.
having
I'm
me.
good. Yeah. Hey, so I know you've been looking at this CISA thing going on this week with Cisco. I wanted to really shine a bright light on that. So, folks, if you're using Cisco equipment, if you're using Cisco firewalls, we're talking ASAs, firepower threat defense, even Cisco iOS, XE, XR type iOS type stuff. CISA has put out a release on that. Let me read it to you real quick. CISA issues emergency directive requiring federal agencies to identify and mitigate Cisco zero-day vulnerabilities. Today, this is from yesterday, so hot off the press right here. Today, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, issued Emergency Directive 2503 in response to an advanced threat actor targeting Cisco Adaptive Security Appliances, ASA, via web services. This is the second emergency directive issued under the Trump administration. This widespread campaign poses a significant risk to victims' networks by exploiting zero-day vulnerabilities that persist through reboots and system upgrades. So this is a challenging one. The emergency directive mandates that all federal civilian executive branch departments and agencies account for all in-scope devices, collect forensic data, and assess any compromises using CISA provided procedures and tools. Additionally, they must disconnect end of support devices and upgrade those that will remain in service by basically 11:59 p.m. midnight Eastern time on September 26th, which is today. So, seems like a big deal, fellas. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, a note put out yesterday, got to respond by midnight tonight. So, here's the quote: As the lead for federal cybersecurity, CISA is directing federal agencies to take immediate action due to the alarming ease with which a threat actor can exploit these vulnerabilities, maintain persistence on the device, and gain access to a victim's network, said CISA Active Director Madhu. I'm going to totally mess up that last name. My apologies. The same risks apply to any organizations using these devices. We strongly urge all entities to adopt the actions outlined in this emergency directive. As federal civilian agencies implement this mandate, CISA will assess rather, and support agencies' adherence and provide additional resources as required. CISA is committed to using its cybersecurity authorities to gain greater visibility and drive timely risk reduction across federal civilian agencies. So, obviously, if you're a if you're a federal agency, you know about this and you're after it. I really wanted to shine a bright light on this today since it's very timely. Just came out yesterday and a big deal. This is um, a very high risk type thing. A lot of folks use Cisco gear. And unfortunately, if you were watching last week, we talked about some of the things that we recommend here to harden your environment. One of those was talking about a way to get around some of the um, infrastructure security type risks that come from stuff like this. We've seen this exact type thing happen with many vendors, not just Cisco. So this isn't a slam on Cisco. We've seen it happen with Fortinet. We've seen it happen with Palo and many others. So my goal today is to shine a bright light on it and then talk about specifically what you can do to not be in this position and what you can do if you are in this position, what you need to do right now. So, any questions, comments from you guys before we get rolling here? I'd like to go jump into to directly what CISA says here about identifying and mitigating these potential compromise of Cisco devices.
Now,
Well,
my biggest takeaway is if the federal government comes out and says there's an issue, that means we should all be alarmed because the criticality, the score that this vulnerability hit like a 9.9 means like it is currently being exploited, and it's a you can look at some of the base parameters and say, hey, look, this is a low the attack complexity is set to low. That means it's not very high. It doesn't require high skill to get to exploit this vulnerability. So it's a big deal.
Roger that. Roger
big
that.
time. And being the tech nerds that we are, I cannot wait to jump into the details. So please do.
Yeah, Joel, I'm a tech nerd, but even if you're not and you're listening to this, let me tell you something. The truth of the matter is the lessons are in the details. The learning is in the details. So now's the time to go ahead and focus. We're going to be talking about specific tech, specific details, and that knowing these details is the key to understanding what to do about it, right? So let's jump into it. Background. Let's jump right into the background. CISA is aware of an ongoing exploitation campaign by an advanced threat actor. That's not a good sign right there, right? Targeting Cisco ASAs, which is their firewalls. The campaign is widespread and involves exploiting a zero-day vulnerability to gain unauthenticated remote code execution. That's a problem. Remote code execution, right? In layman's terms, that means running code from the firewall. So imagine you bought a firewall to protect yourself, and now the firewall is what's protecting you, or not protecting you, but attacking you. So that's a problem. As well as manipulating read-only memory ROM to persist through reboot and system upgrade. This activity presents a significant risk to victims' networks. Cisco assesses this campaign is connected to the arcane door activity identified in early 2024, and that this threat actor has demonstrated a capability to successfully modify ASA ROM at least as early as 2024. These zero-day vulnerabilities in the Cisco ASA platform are also present in specific versions of Cisco Firepower. So, as most of you know out there, Cisco's had firewalls of various generations throughout the decades, right? Back when the PICs in the old days and the ASA, and it kind of moved to the Firepower now as their latest. This carries all the way into the Firepower line. These zero-day vulnerabilities, the Cisco ASA platform, are also present in specific versions of Cisco Firepower. That's what I just read, right? Firepower appliances secure boot would detect the identified manipulation of the ROM. So CISA has assessed that the following CVEs pose an unacceptable risk to federal information system. So these are the two CVEs. I've got them listed right here. We're going to look at them in just a second in more details. CISA mandates that these vulnerabilities be addressed immediately through the actions outlined in this directive. CISA is directing agencies to account for all Cisco ASA and Firepower devices, collect forensics, and assess compromise via CISA-provided procedures and tools, disconnect end of support devices, and upgrade devices that will remain in service. These actions are directed to address the immediate risk, assess compromise, and inform analysis of the ongoing threat actor campaign. The required actions. So here's what they're recommending that we do. This emergency directive requires agencies to take the following actions. Number one, immediately identify all Cisco ASA platforms. That's ASA hardware, ASA service modules, ASA virtuals, ASA firmware on Firepower 2100, 4100, and 9300, and all Cisco Firepower threat defense appliances. That's a lot. That's all of them, isn't it? Help me out, Brandon. It looks like if I'm a Cisco customer and I've bought Cisco firewalls, this is hitting pretty close to home, isn't it?
Exactly, because a lot of businesses make the business decision to say, hey, we might keep equipment past end of life, end of support, because you might not have the funds to purchase the equipment. That happens, but that's you keep that end of life device. Hey, this is a possibility of happening right here.
Yep. So for all public-facing Cisco ASA hardware appliances, now what do we mean by public-facing? We mean it's got an IP address, a public IP address out there on the internet. It's sitting there, right? So here's what they recommend. Number two, follow CISA's step-by-step core dump and hunt instructions, which there's a link to that here, and submit core dumps via the Malware Next Gen portal by midnight tonight, essentially Eastern time. If the result is compromise detected, agencies must immediately disconnect the device from their network, but do not power off. Report the incident to CISA and work with CISA on incident response and eviction actions. If the result is no compromise detected, agencies may proceed to requirement 3 and 4. So here's where you can run the code. There's a link right here. Again, maybe I should, Joel, would you mind putting maybe this link in the chat? All right, so we can folks that are watching can have a link on this to be able to respond to that.
Yeah.
So if the result is no compromise detected, number 3, for the ASA hardware models with an end of support date on or before September 30th, 2025, take the following action. Permanently disconnect these devices on or before September 30th. So obviously, if they're end of life or end of support type stuff, it's end of support. Turn it off, right? For ASA hardware models with an end of date support as of August 31st, 2026, so basically a year from now, download and apply the latest Cisco provided updates for software by midnight tonight, and apply all subsequent updates via Cisco's download portal within 48 hours of release. So, like we say over and over, keep your stuff up to date, right? They've got updates ready for this right now for you. For all ASA virtuals and Firepower FTD, download and apply the latest Cisco provided updates by software. Again, same thing. All agencies, regardless of the results of the requirement 2, must, number 6, by midnight tonight, by midnight on October 2nd, 2025, so a few days from now, report to CISA using the provided template a complete inventory for all instances and products within scope on agency networks, including details on actions taken and results. So, by watching this show right now, you guys are getting virtual CISO for free. This is exactly, if you're out there and you don't have a CISO, this is what your CISO should be telling you. If you have a CISO, this is what you need to be telling your organization. CISA actions. CISA will provide agencies with a template. CISA will continue efforts to identify instances. CISA can provide technical assistance. And by February 1st, 2026, CISA will provide a report to the Secretary of Homeland Security, National Cyber Director, and so forth. So, you guys get the kind of the background, the context of what's going on here. I wanted to just quickly lay that out here. I want to go just a little bit further into the specifics of what these two CVEs are. So as Joel was saying, we can tech out a little bit here, get our propellers spinning, right, for his technical nerds, but also really look at the details. And out of the details, it'll tell us exactly what we need to do. So looking here specifically at this CVE, CVE 2025-20333 summary. A vulnerability in the VPN web server of Cisco Secure Firewall Adaptive basically ASA software and FTD software could allow an authenticated remote attacker to execute arbitrary code on an affected device. This vulnerability is due to an improper validation of user-supplied input in the HTTPS request. An attacker with a valid VPN user credential could exploit this vulnerability by sending crafted HTTP requests to an infected device. A successful exploit could allow the attacker to execute arbitrary code as root, possibly resulting in the complete compromise of the affected device. Cisco has released software updates that address this vulnerability. Cisco continues to strongly recommend that customers upgrade to a fixed software release to remediate this vulnerability. There are no workarounds that address this vulnerability. Update is the only thing that you can do. Now, I say that's the only thing you can do, but I think there's something even better that you can do. We'll talk about that in a minute. So, Brandon, your thoughts here?
My thoughts are 2 things need to happen. You need to have valid user credentials. So that means someone's going to get phished for credentials, or you're going to find some reuse of credentials that are already dumped somewhere else, and to try that. And then that's one piece of it. Then you have to have a carefully crafted HTTP request, which does happen in web applications all the time. You can you put like input sanitation is one of the biggest things in the OWASP top 10 that says like, hey, look, the input in the link or whatever you put in the address bar could include remote code execution. So that happens constantly.
Yeah.
And so that 2 things have to happen. And so there's things we could do to mitigate this. Like we can not expose management interfaces to the internet. That's a big thing. That's we could also look at multi-factor authentication for users and credentials, and disable unused services and disable the unused services that you have. If you're not using it, don't have it out there. Don't turn it on. So 3 simple things that we could probably do.
Yeah. Agreed. Any comments, Joel?
Actually, my stream's cutting out here, so might as well keep on going with you guys for the moment.
You roger that. So I want to look at the affected products for a second. Let's look at the specifics of which of the Cisco products are affected, so you'll know if this does apply to you or not. So first thing, you need a device with a public IP on it that's open to 443, port 443 or HTTPS. That's the first thing. And unfortunately, a lot of companies have this because that's how VPNs work, right? If I want a VPN into my business, then a lot of what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to bring up my VPN client and I'm going to VPN to the firewall, Cisco ASA, possibly Firepower. It's going to listen on port 443 and ask me, hey, you want a VPN? Fine, give me some credentials. And this communication that's going on back and forth for the firewall to get the VPN going is what's being attacked. And so first, you have to have a public IP on the device with 443 listening, the web server specifically, as it mentions. And it needs to be one of these affected devices. So let's look at the vulnerable products. So this vulnerability affects Cisco devices if they're running a vulnerable release of Cisco Secure Firewall ASA software or Cisco Secure FTD software and have one or more of the vulnerable configurations listed in the following 2 tables. So here we go. In the following table, the left column lists Cisco ASA software features that are potentially vulnerable. The right column indicates the basic configs for the feature from the show running config. So let's look at this. Make this a little bigger here for us. Maybe we can see it better. How about that? So AnyConnect, IKE v2 remote access with client services. So that's the feature set on the ASA that we're talking about. And the possible vulnerable config here is this particular line, crypto IKE 2 enable, interface name, client services, port, and port number. So this combination is what you're talking about that's vulnerable, along with mobile user security. And here you can see the config would be a web VPN with a password server port, as well as the IPv4 mask and interface name, as well as SSL VPN feature set here again with the configs, which you'll be looking for a web VPN enable. So if you got a firewall that's an ASA out there, go to it, SSH to it, show run pipe include this crypto and look for this crypto IKE enable, look for this web VPN and so forth to see if your firewall is one of the devices that's vulnerable, but also has these features running and this config that would open it up to this. Similarly, on the FTD side of things, this is what you're looking at. Again, AnyConnect IKE v2 remote access. Again, crypto IKE v2 enable, very similar. And AnyConnect SSL VPN, again, web VPN enable. So these are the feature sets that you're looking for and the devices that you're looking for to see if you are susceptible to this. Couple of workarounds, absolutely none. There are no workarounds right now. It does mention some fixed software, some different versions here. If you go down here to use this tool, Cisco Software Checker page, you'll be able to see that you can, it gives you directions on how to use that. Basically, choose which advisory tools to search, choose the appropriate software, choose the appropriate platform, and enter a release number, for example, 9.2.0.3.4, so forth, and you'll be able to check right here via this software checker. Recommendations. After installing a fixed release, it's recommended that the customer review the config threat detection for VPN services section in the Cisco Secure Firewall ASA Firewall CLI config guide. This section will provide guidance on enabling protections from remote access VPN login authentication attacks, client initiation attacks, and attempts to connect to an invalid VPN service. So Cisco's got some really good directions here to how to deal with this type stuff if you want to look a little bit further into that. So that's one of the CVEs. I'd like to go over the second one really quickly. Similarly,
Real quick,
this first, I'm sorry,
hey,
go ahead, Joe.
quick. So what did they say while I was screwing around with my screen, my stream that wasn't working? What did they say about the persistence? So if you do an upgrade of the software, to a fixed release, that's not necessarily getting rid of all your trouble, right? If you've already been exploited. So what did they say about that?
No, my understanding, and correct me, Brandon, if I'm wrong, but if you have this vulnerability, the requirement is that you update with the Cisco fix, which they say is available here. The
Yeah, it's
advisory,
right there on the
yeah,
right. Yeah, there you go.
yeah. So the fix here, and then you reboot. That's the resolution.
Okay, so
Update
even the
and
ones
reboot.
that are affecting ROM and
Yeah.
are they're not persistent past an update.
Right, right. If you
Okay.
don't update, a reboot will not fix it.
Okay, because since we have seen that in the past with some of these vulnerabilities, so that's good.
Yeah.
That helps.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Update and reboot.
Yeah, this isn't like where we have to burn it to the ground, start from scratch. I think that's where
Right.
Joel was
Those
going
are
with.
scary
'Cause
ones.
I know which one you were talking about too.
This isn't a toss it out the window event. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so the second one, CVE 2025-20352, related summary of vulnerability in the SNMP subsystem of Cisco iOS software and Cisco iOS XE software could allow the following. An authenticated remote attacker with low privileges could cause a denial of service condition on an affected device that is running Cisco iOS software or iOS XE software. To cause the DOS, the attacker must have SNMP v2 or earlier read-only community string or valid SNMP v3 user credentials. Secondly, an authenticated remote attacker with high privileges could execute code as the root user on an affected device that is running Cisco iOS XE software. To execute code as the root user, the attacker must have SNMP v1 or v2 read-only community string or a valid SNMP user credential and administrative or privileged 15 credentials on affected device. An attacker could exploit this vulnerability by sending a crafted SNMP packet to an affected device over a v4 or v6 IPv4 or IPv6 network IP address. This vulnerability is due to a stack overflow condition in the SNMP subsystem of the effective software. A successful exploit could allow a low privileged attacker to cause the effective system to reload, resulting in a DOS condition. So this one doesn't seem to be quite as bad. If you're, rebooting, denial of service, not great, but not as bad as the other. So it lists
Right.
some affected products here. Specifically, you want to be looking for SNMP community read only like this. Yeah, if if you've got SNMP community public read only out there, yeah, we probably
Trust me,
do
you're
need
getting
that.
red.
Yeah, we
It's
probably
happening.
need to have a conversation. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully this community string has been hardened. This is certainly Security Basics 101. We want to lock that down, right? To determine whether a device has SNMP v3 enabled, use the show running config include SNMP server group, and you can see here what you're looking for. Command. Products confirmed not vulnerable. It's got a list of them here. Workarounds, no workarounds, and so forth. So those are the details. Now I want to kind of let's Joel, maybe if we could kill that share and let's have a conversation quickly about this. We're about 25 minutes in. We're doing great. I want to really be careful with our time because there's so much that we could talk about here. The first thing I want to throw this out and then get you guys' opinion on this. Would you guys say that it's pretty common that a lot of businesses have remote access VPNs running off of a firewall?
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, very.
Got it. And would you say that it's pretty common that most companies that have a remote access VPN running off of a firewall have a public IP and port 443 open to just any IP address on the planet?
Close. I think they're getting better at it, but it's definitely open to a lot, right? I mean, there's more and more people that are catching on to, hey, let's at least use some sort of dynamic list that blocks known bad IPs, or let's use at least some sort of geo IP blocking, right? But even then, for the most part, you're still open to a lot, right? You may be able to block that country where a lot of bad actors come from, but guess what? They go through VPNs and they look like they're coming from the US. So
absolutely.
Yep.
Joel, you mentioned that last week. We specifically looked at a trace, right? Basically, someone downloaded a Huntress EDR, installed it, a bad actor, so they were able to see exactly what this bad actor was doing, and it was a U.S. But the IPs that were coming was a U.S. IP, so geocoding wouldn't block.
Right.
It's very difficult to do source address filtering because you don't know where your people are coming from. They
Right.
may be coming from Starbucks or their house or who knows. So this is a very common situation, this what we're talking about today, because so many businesses are running this type of architecture with a public IP address on a firewall, 443 web server sitting there running to log in via VPN. So this is a very common thing that's happening. We see this over and over because that particular architecture is so prevalent in the environment. Would you guys agree?
Yeah, and it's inherently weak. It's inherently got this issue, right? It's always going to come up. It's just, we talked about a long time ago, right? One of my favorite analogies is you think about the chicken coop, and you think about you want to protect your chickens and keep them safe. Well, there's a couple ways to do it. One way is you just build this really great coop, and you just hope nothing gets in, right? And the problem with that is that the raccoons and the possums, the foxes, they're going to have all the time in the world to figure it out. They will eventually figure it out. They will eventually find a way in because they get all the time in the world to sniff around and dig and test the perimeter and find a way to get in. Or you go to a completely different solution, which in this case would be a great dog, right? To keep everything away. But technology, you look at a different solution that does not have that inherent weakness.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I'd like to go ahead and throw out a suggestion here, a solution. Don't be in this position. If I know that the store down the street's getting robbed all the time, I just don't want to go down there. I'm going to go somewhere else if possible, right? Similarly, don't put yourself in a position where you got a public IP with 443 open to the world. If you can avoid it. Well, okay, how can you avoid it? SASE. Like what we talked about last week, one of the main things that we talked about last week was we talked about having a SOC, number one, having all your logs go to one central place. You can see what's going on. You bought all this stuff, right? Are you listening to the logs? Throw that stuff in a SIEM. Have a SOC watching it. It makes sense of correlating these alerts, number one. Number two, we need EDR on things that we own. Put some EDR out there. It's a great place to find out what's going on in these machines. Again, all of these things are not 100% foolproof, but they're part of defense in depth. That's what we're talking about, right? So we're looking at logs. That's one. We're looking at EDR stuff on the devices to give us good logs. Number three, we're talking about hardening the environment, user authentication. We're talking about hardening the network, right? And number four, what are we talking about? We're talking about SASE. Remember, we talked about last week or the week before, we talked specifically about Cato's offering of SASE, where it's basically a security service in a cloud. So instead of you taking and putting a AnyConnect agent on your device and that AnyConnect agent coming back to a firewall that's locally on your prim, right? Instead of that, you're basically outsourcing this security solution. You're creating VPN as a service. Your users have a Cato agent or something similar that's connecting to Cato. And that's how they come in. Once they come into the Cato cloud, right, the security cloud, this security checkpoint in the cloud, then they can go directly to whatever SASE you got on the internet. Maybe they come to one of the remote sites, the headquarter sites, or wherever, right? Similarly for remote site, then instead of a site-to-site VPN, right? Similar solution there. You've got a device on site that connects into Cato. And so the idea here is don't be the one. Don't go to the store. Don't have your firewall sitting there with a public IP and 443 waiting to be hammered. Just don't do it. Let Cato deal with that. Similarly, if you're dealing with it, think about the way it works with DNS. It's almost impossible for you to have a DNS server and overcome a bot attack, right? Where this DNS is being absolutely hammered. That's why you go with something like, Quad 1s or Quad 9s or Cloudflare, whatever, right? Cloudflare is to protect yourself from that. So a good way to not have to deal with this is simply get out of the business of having a firewall sitting there with a public IP and 443. That's option one. Highly recommended. Thoughts on that, guys?
Completely agree. I mean, we talked about last week, you get the performance benefits out of it, but think about security benefits and think about, if you're an IT administrator, an executive, a manager, whatever, business owner, think about your users firing up that computer at Starbucks and boom, connected, right? That's it. I mean, there's an agent on the machine that connects to the nearest POP, and that POP is maintained and secured by this company that you're paying the subscription to, right, to have this access, instead of you building out all the infrastructure yourself. Like, it's the same idea when you went to the cloud, or when you decided that it makes a lot of sense to have Microsoft manage the Exchange server, not me, right?
Yeah.
And I'll just pay for the mail service, right? It's the same idea. Let them secure the stuff that's hard to stay up on top of, that's relatively cheap for you to pay for, and then get all the benefits from it.
Bingo. Agreed. Any comments, Brandon? I think rather than trying to solve a problem, if we can just not even have the problem, get out of the game where the problem is, then we don't have to deal with this. Your thoughts?
It's going back to the basics of reducing your digital footprint, limiting exposure. Let's get down to the basics of what it is. Hey, stop having a lot of stuff publicly visible out there that are easy targets for anyone to attack. The threats only have to be right once. We have to be right all 100%. The time.
So, well said. So good said. Yeah, I agree completely. Okay, so that's option one. Well, that's not what I got today. Great, guys. Thanks. So that's in the future. Great. We'd love to help you with that, by the way. So right now, I got firewalls. I got public IPs. What do I do? How do I harden this thing? Brandon, you mentioned earlier multi-factor authentication. These vulnerabilities require an authenticated user, right? Yep. Which means, if you got username passwords, more than likely they're out there for sale on the dark web, right? But guys, if you didn't know this, just let me catch you up on what's going on in security today. This show's about right now. Right now, folks are not hacking in through firewalls and jumping over EDR. That's really not so much what we're seeing. What we're seeing is users being socially engineered and tricked a lot, right? We're seeing that a lot, and we're seeing credentials being purchased. We're seeing credentials being purchased off the dark web. How is your credentials out on the dark web for sale? Because you got hacked with an info stealer malware. They took all your stuff. They sold it out there on the dark web, and you never knew. This happens a lot. So many times I'll let you in on a secret, kind of a behind the scenes, right? Pull the curtain back and look at the wizard, right? Like the Wizard of Oz. Many times, if we really want to get into an environment, right? We're doing a cybersecurity audit, or we're doing maybe a pen test. Man, it's really nice to just go purchase those credentials and log in. Because if I just purchase credentials and log in, what logs are you going to see in all your systems? What's your EDR alerts going to be? What's your firewall alerts going to be? What's your SaaS alerts going to look like? Nothing.
Successful login.
That's successful login. I am a ghost. And so many times, this is what we see. And it's frustrating for us, and it's frustrating for folks that bring us in to help them with security. They bring us in. They know something's going on, right? Their clients or their vendors, they gave the money to the wrong vendor, or their clients gave their money to somebody else. And, and they come to us. They come to us and say, help find out what's going on. We look, and what do we see? Successful logins. It's very challenging. So multi-factor authentication can certainly help with that. But Brandon, I got to tell you, my man, multi-factor authentication is not the silver bullet, right? Because once you get multi-factor authentication there's a session that's sitting there alive, right? That's already authenticated. If I can grab this session, I'm already past that, right? So it's part of a good defense in depth, but multi-factor is certainly not the silver bullet.
Right. And, it's like you're saying devices. This is a solution for now. Oh, I'm sorry. I must have a bad delay on my side, Brandon. But you say this is a solution for now, but it's the solution for then too. SASE's great. SASE's what you should be moving towards. Yeah. You're still going to want to do this though. You're still going to want to harden your configs, harden your network, harden your authentication, and have some monitoring in place regardless. So you might as well do it sooner than later.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Go ahead, Brandon.
We're going to talk in the realm of like trusted devices. Don't allow any not just your credentials, user credentials. You got to have an authenticated, trusted device. You know, so it's almost like you have those two together. It helps reduce the risk of any devices connecting. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So you're saying we're adding factors, right? First factor is your
exactly.
username. Second factor is your password. Third factor is your multi-factor authentication, right? You're saying add another factor, which is the device itself. You can't VPN from just anything. It's got to be a
Yep,
device that we already know about, right? Yeah. How do
exactly.
we do that, Brandon? Give me more details. If I'm out here and
Oh,
I'm thinking that sounds like a great idea, how do I go about that?
through agents, deploying out certificates to devices. You know, that's a common way of doing it. Let's see, the endpoint agents. You know, like just yeah, those can pull like the device ID and the device max. You know, have a trusted list, your device list. We can see in Palo is that a device list. You can implement the device ID and have those devices only allowed into through Global Protect too. So those could work as well. So
I dare
there's a couple.
say that many people listening that have these firewalls, Cisco, Palo, Fortinet, whatever, have the ability to do this right now. They have the hardware, they have the software to do this right now, and may not know it. Sometimes there's a little extra license you put on top, but most times there's not much. You just got to configure it. And so, like you said, I mean, some way of checking that device. Is it a device we own? Even if it's not, is it a device that is up to date on its patches? Right? Things like that. You can check these things. The firewall can check all
Yep.
this stuff.
Yeah, posture. Yeah, posture assessment. Make
Yeah.
sure this device is what it is up to date, that it's squared away. 100% agreed.
You could do
So much
that. Meraki automatically. That's just a flip of a switch. Not
Right.
even, you don't have to pay for license. All right, is the device up to date? Yep, we're good. All right.
Yep. You know, this brings out something that we say many times, and I just want to say it clearly here. Your security is only as good as your configs. Let me say that again. Your security is only as good as your configurations. You can spend all the money in the world on the very best firewall and all the money in the world on all these extra licenses, but if you don't configure this stuff right, it's just not going to work right. So it matters. It really does matter. You got to know what you're doing. You got to configure this stuff right. You got to understand what we're trying to do as a defense in depth, right? This is only one piece. So putting all of these things together is where you really start leveling up your security. And the truth of the matter is, it's like putting a fence around my backyard. It only takes one part of the fence to get knocked over. Doesn't matter what the rest of the fence is, right? So each of these little pieces needs to be right. They need to be in place and they need to be right.
100%.
Go ahead, Joel.
No, I was agreeing with you.
Yeah, you must be pretty smart then.
Brandon,
anything you want to add here? Anything? If I'm the person out here that's like, holy mackerel, thanks for ruining my weekend, guys. It's Friday. I'm ready for a weekend. You drop this on me.
Yeah,
What
he's
can I
got to go
do?
patch.
What can I do right now? I need to get out there. I need to get local, right? I need to download these Cisco updates, and I need to SSH in or console into these devices. I need to update them, reboot them, right? That is right now this afternoon thing. If you're hearing this, am I wrong?
Yep. And some IT managers, I came from a small IT shop, where like you feel like you're alone, but you have to have those good partnerships, because partnerships matter, and have a trusted partner to help you go get through these rough times. You know, be on the weeds with you like through all those long hours. It'll save a lot of time, a lot of headache too. But you got to have those trusted partners that have the expertise to know how to get you through and move on.
Agreed, sir. In line with that, listen, we would love to be your trusted partner here. We've got a firewall management program that I think makes a whole lot of sense for a lot of people. If you're a small organization and you don't have an internal IT team of network folks and security folks and all of this type of stuff, obviously we can help with that, with all the stuff, right? But maybe you're in an environment that's a little bit bigger and you got your internal IT team and you've got folks that are doing your firewalls for you. Man, these folks that are internal would really appreciate some help from folks like us. Because it's one thing to maintain the kind of the day-to-day and all that's going on with everything in the job, right? But it's another thing to bring in someone like us to help with just managing just the firewalls. It's very common that we run a co-managed type relationship with our clients where we'll manage the firewalls, they'll manage the switches and routers and desktops or something. Sometimes we manage the firewalls and the network, and they manage desktops and servers, and sometimes it's everything. So depending on what you're after or your type of environment, I would say firewall management is probably at the top of the list on the first things that I would look to outsource. It's one of the first places that I would look to bring in some expert help, right? As we keep saying, security is only as good as your configs. Firewalls are where the magic is happening. Why not outsource that to a company like us that does firewall management to elevate your own security posture and take some of the real heavy load off of you and your team?
Yeah, I completely agree. And if you're feeling like that's too big of a bite to take right now, or you're not sure how that's going to work for you, wouldn't it feel good to at least have a team in your corner, right, for when you need it? When something like this comes up, it's a rainy day fund. It's something that you've got somebody you can call on, right? So at least start with the conversation. The conversation is free, right? So start with the conversation, get to know us, we get to know you, and you've got someone you can call on when that rainy day comes. When something like this hits on a Friday, of course, right? It's always on a Friday. It's on a Friday, so now you've got, like, man, what am I going to do now? Am I going to be up all night updating firewalls? You've got someone you can talk to and potentially bring in some extra hands for those events.
100%, 100%.
It's always on a Friday, or it's always when you're out doing something else and your laptop's not within arm's reach, or you left it at home. Yeah. It's either your baseball game, you're out with dinner, or you're just trying to enjoy a weekend. It's usually how it happens.
That's
almost
so
intentional,
true.
isn't it?
It's so true. It's so true. Almost intentional. I tell you, we say that, but we watch these alerts coming in, and it absolutely cranks up Friday afternoon. There is no doubt that these bad actors know exactly the work schedule, of these American companies and the blue teams, the teams that are there protecting these networks. They know they're going home on Friday. They're going to crank stuff up on Friday afternoon and hit it all weekend.
Right.
And this goes to the fact of what I learned last Friday. I was at the Atlanta Cybersecurity Conference here downtown. The threats are only going to get more complex and more sophisticated. They're growing exponentially, but the big three things are: be better at the basics, stay on task, avoid distractions. That was one. Have an incident response plan and practice it. And three was partnerships matter. Use them.
Absolutely.
Right for the FBI. That was like the three key takeaways of the Friday, the whole day of learning. Yeah, right there.
That was the FBI's three?
Yes, the FBI's three, the FBI cyber team here in Atlanta.
Yeah, no one's winning this fight alone, man. It's everybody knows you got to have good people in your corner.
Teamwork makes the dream work, fellas. We say it over and over, and it's never more true than in security. If you're a CISO business owner out there responsible for security, man, shows like this, relationships like this, the social media stuff that's going on, kind of keeping up to date on all of these type things. This is a super important part of the job. Just creating these. If you have these organic groups of people that you're working with, that way what's going on with them, they know what's going on with you, everybody knows what's going on, like this particular thing that we're shining the light on today. Really important, these relationships and this teamwork. I want to close it with this, guys. Thank you so much for your input today. I think this is a very timely thing. Brandon, thank you so much for bringing this to our attention last night. Good stuff. I really, really appreciate that.
Thank you.
If you want to contact us, if you're watching this on LinkedIn, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're watching this on Facebook, shoot us a message. It's as easy as that. Just shoot us a message. We'll be glad to jump in and help any way we can. If you message us today, we will be updating your gear this afternoon. We are here for you. We're ready to help. You're looking at the folks who do the work. We're part of the team. There's more than us, but we would love to connect and work with you. So please reach out. Thank you guys again for your input. I hope you guys have a great weekend.